Today's show is brought to you by betonline.ag. Go to betonline.ag and use the promo code CLNS50 for a 50% bonus on your first deposit. Today's show is also brought to you in part by ExpressVPN. Get 3 months free when you purchase a yearly subscription by going to expressvpn.com/good. Today's episode also brought to you by CBS Sports HQ, the brand new streaming sports news network. All right, I'm Jeff Goodman. You're listening to the Ryan and Goodman podcast with one difference today. Bob Ryan is currently on vacation. I thought his life was one big vacation, but he's in France. So I was looking for somebody to fill in this week, and I thought who better than one of his contemporaries. And I don't mean that to sound that you're old, Peter Vecsey, but you are a contemporary of Bob Ryan. And I wanted to bring you on, and you could tell some stories about Bob and rip on Bob all you want and have some fun. And he's not even here to defend himself. So thanks for coming on. I appreciate it.
Sure. I wish he was on. I love basketball with Bob. There'll be no rip jobs of Bob Ryan. Never did it, never will. We are contemporaries. How old is he?
I think you got him by a couple years.
Really?
Think so. I could be wrong.
We retired around the same time, but it's funny. I retired at 69, and so I'm going to tie this all into Bob Ryan.
Okay.
I retired at 69 because Dick Young died at 69, and he was basicay my idol growing up. Reading the newspapers, reading 8 newspapers in New York, and then I had the misfortune of working for him at the Daily News, and then I ended up hating him. But he died at 69 while still doing 5 columns a week.
Wow.
And he got cancer, and he died. And I said, no, that's not going to happen to me. Unfortunately, I had that in my mind. There were other factors, but that was in my mind. I really wish I had stayed another 3 years. So he died, and he had switched. We had worked together at the Daily News. I take it back. I had worked for him. We were colleagues, and then he became the sports editor, and we had our differences. And then all tied to Bob Ryan. So I went to the Post. He kicked me out of the department in 76, and I went to the Queens, Brooklyn bureau of the Daily News and wrote high school sports for a year. One of the best years of my life, I might say. Just the other day on Facebook, I heard from a guy I covered at August Martin in 1976.
That's pretty cool.
Yeah, it's so cool. And it happens. Not often, but it happens, and I was just so happy you reached out to me. So I worked there a year, and how did that happen? Well, let me go back. So he died in 60, and I recommended Bob Ryan take his place at the New York Post. We wound up working together at the New York Post. He got dumped by the News. Came to the Post. Now we're colleagues again, and he dies. And I recommend Bob Ryan to take his job. And I don't know for a fact if they ever offered him the job. I do believe they did. But Bob, I believe, used that as leverage to get a columnist job at the Globe. I believe that's how it happened. You can check with him when he comes back.
I will check with him. I'll see how much money he got too of a bump. Maybe he didn't just get the column. Maybe he got a little bit more money too. I don't know what you guys made back then.
Back then, yeah, not a whole lot. Okay. So how did I get kicked out of the department? Well, I was covering the NBA. I was covering ABA then NBA, and So with 75 Warriors championship win over the Bullets, the sweep. It was the last time that I ever got a finals right. I'm guessing. And so it stands out in my mind, right? 75, yeah. So 76, I'm out. I don't get to watch the Suns. Watched it in a bar in Long Beach Island, and watching that game, I couldn't believe it. That I missed this game, and probably would miss a lot more after that because I was covering high school sports. So this between 75 and 76, Dick Young was in a real lot of friction back and forth with Tom Seaver.
Okay,
remember Tom Seaver was trying to renegotiate. Dick Young was very good friends with Donald Grant, who was the president of the Mets. His son-in-law worked for the Mets, Dick Young's son-in-law. So I did a radio program, a 5-hour radio program. John Sterling asked me to do his show. I think it was on a Saturday or something, and he was doing something. I think he was in France.
Okay.
And no, I'm kidding. So he asked me to do it, and I did it. And I asked Bob to be one of my guests. And probably the last time we ever did radio together. And I said, dude, would you ask me about what's going on with Dick Young and Tom Seaver?
A setup. Okay. Yeah.
So he asked me the question. And I proceeded to knock Dick Young, my sports editor, talking about how, here he is knocking Tom Seaver all the time for trying to renegotiate, and here's Dick Young trying to renegotiate his contract with the Daily News because it wasn't guaranteed. He wanted it guaranteed. I said, well, that's a renegotiation, And so...
He didn't love that. My guess is he did not like that at all.
Well, I got kicked out of the department as a result. So thank you, Bob, for asking that question. I told you I could tie this all together.
That was pretty good.
So,
I didn't know where you were going with all this, Peter. This was a long-winded way of getting there, but you got there.
It's a.
It was good though. No, it's.
I'm out of the department. And never, that's it. That's the end of my career. I'm covering high school sports. And the Daily News was trying to buy me out. Please, let us buy you out. Get out of here. And I had worked there. This was 70, 76, and I'm in 75, 78. And I'd worked there since I was in high school, junior in high school, in 1960. So I got a lot of time there. And now what? So I didn't take it. But then a friend of mine who worked at the Daily News, his name was Jerry Lisker, he got a job as sports editor of the Post when Murdoch bought the Post.
Okay.
Lisker was his first hire. Jerry and I were really good friends. I broke him into the department at the Daily News, and I was his first hire. And that's how I got to the Post.
Pretty cool. So, all right, for people that I didn't give you the full intro at the beginning, but you just said obviously New York Post, New York Daily News. You did TV, NBC, Turner. It was TBS then, NBA TV.
No, it was both. Turner was TBS and TNT.
Okay, it was both back then too. So, I mean, you've done everything in the Hall of Fame. Listen,
USA Today.
USA Today.
3 years there. NBA TV for about 8 years. Yeah.
When I came up, you were one of the people, along with Bob, that I certainly tried to emulate and look up to. And I've kind of made my name, if you want to call it making any sort of name, which I wouldn't. But on breaking news, a lot of it breaking news, trying to be honest, even if it pisses people off. And that was you to a T. I mean, that was who you were. Probably as a New Yorker, and it carried over to your job, and you pissed off a lot of people. First, give me the biggest story you ever broke in your career was what, if one stood out?
First of all, Bob and I weren't alike at all, actually.
Totally different. Totally different how you did your jobs.
No, I mean, just
right?
to say you emulated that, I was breaking stories and busting balls.
Yep.
And Bob was, he was the Celtic columnist, but national also. I would go out of my way to get that Sunday notes column that Bob wrote.
The best.
In fact, that Boston Globe Sunday paper was, one of the best ever. The New York Post, when they had, the great writers of Coppett and Gross and Schechter and those guys and Merchant. I mean, that was a pretty good paper too. But so Bob, anyway, we were different. We were very different, and I think that's what allowed he and I won't say we were good friends, but I always considered him a friend. He would knock me occasionally. I don't think I ever knocked him, but I respected the hell out of Bob. So, but he would cover his team, and he certainly favored his team, which we laughed about that, but we played ball together. So anyway, he and I are different. So you emulated me, and that was your problem. That's why you're doing a podcast today, and I'm retired.
That's why I've got issues, Peter. That's why I've got major issues. I emulated the combination of both of you because, again, growing up in Boston, I did. I mean, I couldn't wait. I couldn't wait to get that Globe notes column for every sport, but obviously, primarily, the first one I go to was the NBA, but I mean, it was everybody. Will McDonough. I mean, it was so good.
Oh, they had Fitzgerald. They had a group that was tremendous. I love. First of all, I'd go out of my way to get the out-of-town newspapers. I was way ahead of the internet.
Yeah. I
would go to a newsstand on 42nd Street, 6th Avenue, on Sunday, and I would buy $20 worth of newspapers, Sunday papers, and I'd take the sports section out of each one, and I'd say, hey, can I leave the rest here? The guy go, yeah.
You left everything else. You just took the sports sections.
Absolutely.
That's great.
Yeah. and you know how thick those were. So, I was going to get all, sledged up, taking those down. And it was a great newsstand. But so the best part, though, was when covering the NBA, and I would be in Boston obviously a lot because the Celtics were very good. And being in Boston for Sunday and waking up on a Sunday morning and, having my coffee and reading, Ryan's column. Oh, man, I loved Boston, not because you say you're from there, but I loved Boston. I loved everything about it, and I missed it immensely. I bought all my clothes up there. That's why I would go at the mall at Copley.
Yeah.
And had this men's shop there with Berlinian. There, I can remember it, Berlinian. And there was a beautiful redhead woman who owned the shop. And man, I made how many plays for her? It got nowhere, but I bought my clothes there anyway. and I really, really miss it. I miss the popcorn at Boston Garden. I miss the pizza.
When's the last game? When's the last game you've gone to? And have you been to the new Garden?
I've been. Yeah, I have.
Okay.
I went to a game when. I don't. Oh, the only thing I remember about the game is J.R. Smith earning a suspension for hitting somebody on the Celtics with something, and I had Doc Rivers seats for the game.
Nice.
In the middle of the arena, but I believe I was retired. So anyway, you asked me my biggest.
Yeah.
I had some really, really big stories. I put my stories up against anybody's in cumulative, and even take any one of 3 or 4 of my biggest stories and put them as the all-time breaking stories. But let's go back to Ryan a second. So in 1976, when Julius Erving is holding out, again, I'm doing high school, and he and I were pretty tight. I coached him in the Rucker, played with him in the Rucker, and we remained friends. And I would go work out with him while he was holding out at Hempstead High School, and he and I would play one-on-one. And I've never shown the photos that I have, never shown to anybody. I have them in my office, and if I ever write my book, they will be in my book. But here, somebody from the news came and took photos of us playing one-on-one, and they're unbelievable. I mean, me posting up Julius.
How did that go for you? What type of effort was Dr. J actually giving in those games?
He was giving a lot of effort.
All right.
I could play. I could play. So he, obviously when he decided to guard me and not let me shoot, he could do that. He put those arms out, and now what?
Yeah.
But other than that, I could score and blah, blah, blah. But, I just have some great pictures. So now he's holding out, and this is one of my biggest stories that I broke. And he didn't give me the story, actually. His agent, Erwin Weiner, gave me the story when he was finally sold to Philly. But I'm not in the department. I'm not in the Daily News Sports Department.
You're covering high school.
So I'm covering high school. So I tell the assistant sports editor that I have the story that Julius is being sold to Philly, and I know all the details and blah blah blah. And so he goes to the managing editor, guy was named O'Neill. I can't remember his first name offhand, but they said okay, and but Dick Young's involved.
He's pissed.
And he said, I can't write the story. You'll get a byline. They gave Steve Hershey. I don't know if you remember him.
Yeah.
They give Steve Hershey the byline, let him write it, and they put it on the front page of the Daily News. Front page. And then his first game was, very soon, like the day or two afterward, and I wanted to go down and cover the game, and Young wouldn't let me. He sent Hershey down.
Wow.
So front page Daily News, I get a note, which I have to this day, from O'Neill saying, and CC Dick Young, that this was a great exclusive. We really, we congratulate you for this, and we need more of this.
Did you ask him how you were going to get more from the high school beat?
No, I didn't. He just sent me a note. I just felt the fact that he CC'd Young had to really.
That's great. So,
yeah.
So Hershey got the byline, Peter. Hershey got the byline. Did you get like a contributing? What did you get? A co? Nothing.
No, I got Steve Hershey and Peter Vecsey.
Okay, it was a co-byline. It was a co-byline. Got it. Got it. Today's show is brought to you by betonline.ag. Go to betonline.ag and use the promo code CLNS50 for a 50% bonus on your first deposit. Today's show is also brought to you in part by ExpressVPN. Get 3 months free when you purchase a yearly subscription by going to expressvpn.com/good. Today's episode also brought to you by CBS Sports HQ, the brand new streaming sports news network. That's pretty cool that you have that type of relationship with Dr. J. And people don't realize this. Oftentimes, the closer you are with somebody, the fact that you can't break it, it makes it more difficult many times to be able to break something, the better relationship you have with somebody. Was that the case for you in the 70s and 80s?
Well, throughout my career.
Yeah. Why?
Tight with many players, many coaches, It always was a conflict. Always. You walk that line. I call it, jumping the divider back and forth. But I will say that, there'll be stuff in my book that I didn't print at the time For obvious reasons. Some of them implicate me, but I didn't hold back. Julius, as tight as I was with him, and he was the best man at my wedding. But I would.
He was the best man at your wedding?
Yes, he was. Yeah. So when he was signing contracts, I'm signed with the Virginia Squires of the ABA.
Yeah.
Now I'm going to sign a contract with the Atlanta Hawks of the NBA, and now the Milwaukee Bucks are offering me a job. I might sign with them, and the Squires are going to face the Nets, so I'll sign a contract with them. I went after him. For it. I felt that he broke his word. Right? He swears the Nets said if they would renegotiate his contract, and the Nets did offer him. They offered him, Tiny Archibald's contract.
So how did he react to that? How did he react to when you went after him? As close as you guys were, did it?
No problem.
He was fine.
No problem. He was fine with it, and some guys were fine with it, very few, but he was okay with it because again, I didn't have a big platform like I had later on. I would write about him,
right. And didn't have the same impact.
I still have those stories, and I really do believe that he was wrong, and he admitted to me recently that. He wished he had gone to Milwaukee because him and Kareem together in their
boy, that would have been insane.
And that would have been all legal. Of course, the ABA was going to sue him, but it would have been legal in the NBA. And the Hawks were fined $25,000 each game that big money in those days for playing in games. They'd given him an apartment, they'd given him a car, they'd given him a bonus that he already cashed. I think the bonus was $250.
Really?
Big in those days, big money.
Huge.
And anyway, so no, he was fine with it. Most times though, I would go after people who I was friends with because I felt if I held back, then I would lose all my credibility. And so guys who were my friends, who, we'd be out for dinner or whatever, and they weren't talking to me. And, and then it would turn around again. There were so many instances in my career where I would have friendships. Again, I talked about this recently. I'm not going to get into detail with you, but I about Pat Riley and I were very tight when he was covering the Lakers. Very tight. I could call him anytime he'd call me back. I'd have a great column. And then we worked together at NBC the first year that NBC had the NBA. We were partners, and weren't that tight, but we were okay. I was invited out to his house when during the finals when he invited all NBC people out there, and he saved my ass one time on or something, and he pulled me into the whole live, And then he went to the Knicks, and and then things got really tough. And he left the Knicks. He went to Miami. I wrote a skating column about him, the loser within, and he wanted to fight me. And then over the years, we've become I won't say tight, but I really, really like him, and he has really told me a lot of intimate things about his life, and at my induction, my controversial speech at the Hall of Fame, Pat went and sat in the first seat. I think it was Jordan was sitting there before, and he left. And Pat sat in the front seat and gave me a standing ovation when it was over, and came over to my table immediately, and that kind of stuff. And has said some really nice things about me. So it's amazing. He's a perfect example of relationships that go, to the extreme on both ends. Del Harris is another one. We almost got in a fight during the 81 finals. I think it was 81 finals, right in Boston Garden. We almost got in a fist fight in the locker room, and we're such good friends now. I mean, for the last, I'd say, 20 years, we're such good friends. It's crazy.
What was the fight over?
I love Del Harris. You know, I was saying stuff about him in the paper all the time, and he was on the edge of being fired. I do get 81 and 86 mixed up. Houston Celtics, I think, pretty sure it was 81. So they had a lousy record. I think they might have been, I don't know, 42 and 40 or 40 and 42, or
okay.
And they got to the finals. And so I several times during the year I said, he loses another game, he's fired. And he thought he was positive that Tom Nasalki, who basically brought him into the ABA and then together at the NBA with Houston, he believed they had a falling out. He believed Tom was feeding me this. He believed Larry Brown's brother, who was an assistant coach of his, Herb Brown, was feeding me this. And so I don't remember which game it was, but I walked into the Boston Garden right as the national anthem was playing, and I walked in back, or about to be played, and I walked in back of the Rockets bench, and he cursed me out. During the national anthem, he cursed me out. and then after the game, I go into the locker room, because I always felt that was key to my success, was you definitely go in the locker room. And the locker room had cleared out except for Calvin Murphy. And I've told this story at my induction. Calvin Murphy was sitting there still getting dressed, and Billy Paultz was there. And the rest of them had gone. And Dell starts crowding me and cursing me and just backing me out of the locker room. And then it goes into the hall. And, security guys get in between, and I think Red Auerbach passed and said, "I hope you kick his ass, Del." and so that's the way it went. And then I remember, it's amazing. Like nobody's around. Everybody cleared out really, and so really nobody knew the story. And then Steve Hershey, who worked for the Washington paper, he and I were really good friends. And I told him about it. I said, "Man, you can't believe it." And he writes it.
No.
He writes the story. Yeah, he does. He writes the story in the Washington paper and makes me the aggressor. He wasn't even there. I never spoke to him again.
That was it?
Said,
come on.
No, are you kidding me? I mean, the guy wrote about something that he knew nothing about other than what I told him, and I was not the aggressor. Del will tell you to this day he was. And then he found out later I was a Green Beret. He said, "Man, I'm glad I didn't hit you." I'm glad you didn't hit me either, because I would have been the one that was fired. Obviously, everything turned against me, that I was the guy. And so certain things happened, like three or four things happened. So Billy Paultz played for me in the Rucker also with Julius. So he and I were really, really tight.
Okay.
To this day, I stay in touch. His second wife just died a couple of weeks ago. It's like, and they have a 13, 14-year-old daughter.
Oof.
But Billy and I go out afterward, and he says to me, he says, "Damn," I thought I was having a religious experience. That was unbelievable.
And he didn't try to break it up at all, Pete.
No. Calvin Murphy, who was there, taking off. He was always there late because he had to take off, 10 pairs of socks that he was wearing.
Right.
So he had to take one pair at a time. It could take him a month. And he's muttering the whole time. He says, "Punch him, Vecsey. You're a pussy if you don't punch him." Punch him, Vecsey.
Trying to egg you on.
And the last part of it is that I told Del years later, I said, Del, you were just so wrong about, who was telling me stuff. Who was I getting it from? I was getting it from the owner. The owner of the Rockets was telling me what was going on.
Yeah, yeah.
So, you blame, and I believe he wrote Herb Brown an apology letter. I don't think he ever did that with Masaki. I don't think they ever patched it up. Tom always thought that Dell cost him, or was after his job. He did get it. But Tom recently died. I'd say in September or August. He was out in Salt Lake City, and he and I were pretty damn tight. I'm sorry I couldn't go to the funeral, but I was out in Arizona, but I just couldn't make that dog that I have to drive with. I can't fly, and I couldn't go. And I said to Dell recently, I said, did you happen to contact him, when he was sick or anything? He said, no. He said, we never talked again.
Wow. Today's episode also brought to you by CBS Sports HQ, the brand new streaming sports news network. It's live 24/7 and costs you nothing. That's right. Sports cover that's always on and always free. We got my guys, obviously, Matt Norlander, Gary Parrish doing college hoops. They got somebody for every sport over there at CBS Sports HQ. Coverage always focused on the game. Highlights, breaking news, fantasy advice, something we care about deeply here, gambling picks and analysis to get that extra edge. I know when I turn on to CBS Sports HQ, I'll see the tips and trends I need to win my bets. Don't forget, you can get access to all this great coverage completely free. I don't mean free for a week or a month or some special cable package. It's totally, completely free for everyone. You don't even need a login. Just download the CBS Sports app on your phone, Apple TV, Roku, Fire TV, or any other connected device at any time to watch CBS Sports HQ. No fake debates, just sports for real sports fans at the great price of nothing. Again, completely free. Don't even need to log in or sign up for anything. Just, again, download the CBS Sports app and watch CBS Sports HQ today. Who is your favorite player to cover? Like, who is the one guy that we all kind of have a guy or a couple guys that you just knew were gold, right, as quotes, or they were going to tell you off the record, shoot you completely straight on everything? Who is that guy or guys for you?
Well, I always tell people Larry Bird, never held back, always told me the truth. But he didn't tell me controversial things. Same with, I said this on the other podcast last week, is that Julius never told me controversial things. He never did. He
would just tell you straight out what it was.
Yeah.
Yep.
Yeah. I mean, he would tell me, you get him after a game, he would tell you stuff about the game and stuff like that. But I never used him for
dirt.
Information.
You wouldn't get dirt from those guys.
No,
right?
No. I would use his wife, Turquoise, for that. She was very outspoken. I remember. I have so many quotes from her. I have columns that I wrote about her talking, and on the record, she didn't hold back. But he won the MVP in the All-Star game in Milwaukee the first year he was in the NBA. And she gave me a quote after that game, and she said, "This is the first time that the NBA is seeing Julius play."
Wow.
Because she felt, and she was correct, that Billy Cunningham, held him back.
That's crazy.
Billy.
And she said that, though. The fact that she would come out publicly and say that is, wow.
She said way more than that. Oh, she'd knock Gene Shue, she'd knock Cunningham, she'd knock players on the team. What's Lloyd Freeze shooting all the time? Darryl Dawkins, I'll tell you, funny story about Turk. They're divorced. And she came to me and she wanted me to, she's back living in North Carolina. I can't remember the town offhand. Wait a minute. Winston-Salem. She's living in Winston-Salem. And she wanted me to write her book, her Kellogg book.
Really?
And I said, I thought about it, and I just said, "No, I just can't do it." And she came after me again, and then finally one day I get a phone call from her. And she said, "Peter, are you going to do my book?" I said, "Sir, I just can't do it." She said, "Peter, if you don't do my book, I'm going to have your brother George do it."
That's great.
She knows George and I don't get along with it. So he's like, "Whoa, man, that's great, Turk." She has a great sense of humor.
I know. Listen, I know you didn't really want to get into it too much, but again, as a journalist, I do want to get your thoughts on how the game has changed, and not the game on the court, but the game off the court, and how people were able to be. And maybe it was just you, and there weren't many others, but I do feel like it was way better, even as recently as 10 years ago, than it is now in terms of getting real information. I feel like too many people now sell out for information and are going to be mouthpieces in all of journalism for the agents, for the players, for the GMs, for whoever. And they're just going to spew out what those people want them to put out there. And instead of being able to go to sleep at night and wake up feeling good about the fact that you did your job real. And I try the best I can. I'm not saying every time I do it perfectly, but I'll piss off enough people, not to the extent you did, but more in college basketball, whether it's Coach K or Roy Williams or Calipari, who I've talked to once in the last 12 or 13 years. I don't care. How do you see it from where you sit, and is it ever going to change, or does it just keep getting worse and worse in terms of consumers getting real information?
Well, it's hard for me. Let me just say, I'm a jumping off on tangents person. But, you mentioned Calipari. When he coached the Nets, he prohibited his assistant coaches to talk to me. They were not allowed to talk. and then interestingly, when he left and he goes to Kentucky, I get a call one day from him. I can't say how long afterward, but I get a call from him, and he goes, he said, I need your help on something. I'm thinking about hiring Roger Strickland as my assistant coach.
Yeah.
And I heard that, there's some tough things about him, but I heard you like him and stuff. And I said, you're absolutely right. He says, he's one of my favorite guys, because he's a guy that would not get angry at me when I knocked him. And even to this day, I have it in my computer, sent me a note, that said that I really respected the fact that, when you did knock me, and I deserved it most of the time, you'd come in the locker room after.
Yeah.
He said, if I ever get a head coaching job, he said, I want you to be at my first team. So I endorsed him heavily, and he was hired. And Calipari and I, we don't talk or anything, but I believe we have a decent relationship off of that. But whatever, I didn't do it for that, so I stuck up for Rod.
Yep.
And look, to answer your question, I'm on the periphery. I read. There are some great features being written about players that young and even old. I wish there was somebody around today that did what I did as far as obituaries, tributes when people die or when they're sick. I probably did about 100 of those.
I do.
And I'm very, very proud of them. And I wish somebody else would do those things. The last time that I wrote tributes, and I say the last time, but it's not really the last time. Next to last time, the NBA asked me to do a magazine article for the finals program on all the people that passed in 2013. And there could have been 15, 16 as it turned out. I mean, they gave me the assignment, and then as I'm writing it, other people are dying, like Jack Ramsey.
Yeah, yeah.
And I think he was the last one that I wrote about. But I really went and I researched, I talked to kids and wives, and Bellamy was one of them. I talked to his wife. Tom Gola was one I spoke to his wife. Very, very emotional. Amazing what they told me about their husbands. Or I talked to kids of people who died. And the stuff, I think it was one of the best things I ever wrote in my life. And I don't think one person ever wrote me and said, "That's what you did." But it was in the program. Maybe nobody reads the program.
No, not a lot of people anymore.
They buy it. Yeah, they buy it as a souvenir. They never open it up.
Exactly.
But that was so emotional. I said, I'm not doing that again. And then when John Havlicek died, I was, just a little calm. I was doing it, and I wrote his tribute, and that was the last one. I said, that's it for me.
I like how you call it, Peter. I like how you call it a tribute, not an obituary. You always hear obituary. It sounds better. Tribute.
Well, they were tributes. They really were tributes. I wish I could have gone longer on the people I wrote about. If you can, you should look it up somehow. But I only could do maybe 3, 4, 5, 6 paragraphs on each guy, but I made every word count. It was like, I was so proud of that. And then nobody did anything. It was like, that story was written in a forest and nobody read it.
I know. And that's the hardest thing, I mean, on one hand, it's hard, but on the other hand, you knew you did right by that individual and their family. And that, that's what matters most in a situation like that.
Yeah, I take it back. I got feedback from the people. I sent each one a program.
Right.
Well, interestingly enough, Dean Meminger was one of them, and his son gave me just tremendous stuff. And I went to his funeral too, so I gleaned stuff from that. But Dean and I were very, very close. And you ask, and I know you asked that question. Hopefully I'll get back to it, but. You ask about, do you hold back? When do you hold back? Well, I'll give you, Dean Meminger is a perfect example of when I held back. I knew he was a drug addict. I knew it. And, we were really close from the rocker and covered him with the Knicks. I don't believe he was a drug addict then, though he could have been. But, and then he died a drug addict. He caught in a fire previously to that, almost burned to death in a crack house. Wow. And so I wrote this story, the tribute about him from his son. And, his son, who I've been in touch with, vaguely. I sent him photos of Dean that I had. And, months later, he'll say, yeah, I got him. Thanks? How about thanks? Any thanks? Like what? So... never. He never said a word about the article. It was really good about him. Article. I mean, it was like, again, 6, 7 graphs, but man, every word counted. Yep. So I held back on Dean, and I'm not sorry I did. Whose business was it really? He was a civilian at that point. Well, maybe he was. No, he had a short career. He had a lot of demons. But we lived in the same neighborhood, too. I knew his wife. To answer your question, today's writers, I'm tight with a couple of them. I'm not going to say who they are. A couple of them who I really respect. And they tell me that it's just so weird these days that I can tell by what they're writing that they're not breaking hard stories. Nobody is breaking hard stories. Again, I said recently that once I left TNT and left television, there hasn't been one hard story broken on those, ESPN, take any place you want. Not one hard story. Not the kind that when I was on NBC, live after a game with Orlando, broke the story that Brian Hill was going to be fired, that he was undermined by his players, and they had a meeting the night before, and they voted, to get rid of him, and they were going to do it. Not like that,
Yep.
Like
yep.
Matty Gukas was doing the game with Marv Albert. Matty Gukas coached the Orlando Magic, and he disputed it on the air. This is not true. Not true. I mean, I would have heard something. And we held it. We held it actually the whole telecast until the end of the game. And what grief I took on that for a couple of days until he was fired. Brian Hill was fired, and so that kind of stuff. No. So I know nobody's doing that. So why are they not? The play. I stay in touch with one particular writer who tells me a lot of stuff that who I respect a lot, and he says that today's writers only write what they're told because they want to maintain their sources and stay relevant with. Be able to call a GM or an agent and not be hung up on, and he said he tries to do the best job he can, but it's very, very difficult to break a story when there's denials. He said, you were different. You would get the denials and still go with it.
Yeah. Yep.
And I told him, I said, the reason being is that I developed sources that I could trust without a doubt, and then I would use them continually because I knew they'd tell me the truth. And that was the thing with the Brian Hill situation. I mean, I had an agent who told me, but it happened. And then I went to a person who worked for the Magic and said, "This is what I have," and he admitted it. And so I said, "Okay, that's two. We're going with it." And I had to put up with taking that grief. I mean, I remember a columnist in Philadelphia just kicked my ass, But that happened all the time, and oh my God, how many writers came after me? Don't know what I'm talking about. This is, yellow journalism. They got beat. The only way they can react is to knock me. And then, the Brian Hill thing happened so quickly afterward that they could only stay on me for a few days. But there were other instances where it would last a long time. Guys would write columns. I still have some of those columns. What happened to those writers?
Where they'd kill you, the thing would play out maybe a month or two later, and right.
Oh yeah. I mean, again, people always. And I think even Ryan has said this about me. I throw stuff against the wall. I said that is total bullshit. I will say that if I wrote something about this is what I hear, that's not coming out and saying it's going to happen.
Right.
It could be going on right then and tomorrow and later today. It's not going on, but so I heard and I know it to be true. But whatever, they don't know it's true. They don't know my sources, and then that. So
things can change.
After me and say,
things can change.
They say, but again, of all the things in my career, I got that I said were absolute truths. Two of them didn't happen. One I explained ad nauseum about Phil Jackson being interviewed for the Knicks job while Van Gundy had it. Checkers lied to me about it. And so that's why I was wrong on that. The other one was I said that, oh, man, can I come up with his name? Derek Coleman.
Yeah.
That Derek Coleman had a heart problem and was in the hospital. And I got that from a really good source. Very tight with Derek's wife, who came back and told me immediately, said, "Peter, you're close, but he's in the hospital, and they're really worried about his heart, but it's not what you say it is yet. He came right, so I had to apologize for that. But he really was sick. So anyway, those are the two things. So to say, really pisses me off when I these nobody that know nothing saying that I'm throwing stuff up against the wall. They wish they had a wall to throw stuff up against. They don't even have the wall. But today's guys, I don't know. I don't know if things will change. If this is the way it is forever. Another reason that I my time is in locker rooms like that. They allowed you in, but that people would be listening to conversations. My best work was done after the game in locker rooms where everybody left and I'm sitting there talking to guys.
You're the last one, right? You're waiting it out. You're the last one. Yep.
Right. And then I had a new sports editor that came in, Bill Larry. He wanted to change things around. He wanted me to write for the game.
Yeah, you're like, there's no reason. Right. You're not getting anything then.
I've been working for how many years? Now you want me to write after the game. Now I can't get the information. Now I'm like everybody else.
Yep.
I'm just writing about what? Like something that happened in the game? Or give me a day, I'll come back, and I'll kick it back. So, from the teams putting microphones in front of you while you're talking like crazy. So I said those things drove me out, and then also the agents. I had some, great agents that I used to rely on a lot, and they would tell me the truth. And the minute they didn't tell me the truth, they knew they were in trouble. So I had a great pipeline, but then it started out, okay, wait a minute, this agent. I remember losing my TV jobs, at NBC. And this one agent deciding to give a big time story to Rick Buechler.
Yeah, Rick Bucher. Yep.
Bucher. Gave it to Rick Bucher, and I called him up and said, "Hold, wait a minute now. You gave this story to Rick Bucher." I said, "So you figure I'm done now because I'm not on NBC? I'm done, That was the last time I spoke to him. But all the agents, I figured I don't want to deal with so many of them after a while. I said, man, I don't want to call this guy. And so those kind of sources would dry it up for me. And, still to get stories and stuff. Look, even when I'm retired, I broke two of the biggest stories in the NBA. I said in September that before LeBron left Cleveland, I said he was going to the Lakers unequivocally, 100%. I said.
Yep.
And people were like, yeah, okay, right. And then when it happened, a few of them said, well, good guess. And then a few more would say, and then one guy on TV on Fox, he tried to take it as his own. He said, well, I said that. Wait a minute, I did it on your show. You're saying now you did it? I didn't go on that show again.
Today's show also brought to you by ExpressVPN. I live in Massachusetts, but I like watching, obviously, everything, whether it's NBA. Now my daughter's got me into hockey. So it used to be a big pain for me because they don't always show all those games in my area. But this season I discovered this trick that lets me watch every single NBA game, NHL game live for a fraction of the normal cost. It's called ExpressVPN. I actually used it in Lithuania about a year and a half ago to watch the games back here as well. NBA offers NBA League Pass, which lets you stream games online. But if you live in the U.S. or Canada, it doesn't let you watch all of them. Some games are blacked out. So what do? Fire up ExpressVPN, use it to change your location to a different country, buy and use the NBA League Pass from there, and boom, no blackouts. And depending on the country, NBA League Pass could cost less than $15 for the whole year. ExpressVPN works on your computer, phone, router, Fire TV, any of those consoles, so you can watch all the games from any device. Even when I'm not watching the NBA, I have ExpressVPN on because it also encrypts all my data, which I'm told keeps it safe from all the hackers. So enjoy all of the games, NBA games, NHL games in HD with the world's most trusted VPN, ExpressVPN. Use my special link today to get 3 months free at expressvpn.com/good, after which you can sign up for NBA League Pass at a huge discount. That's expressvpn.com/good for 3 months free with a 1-year package. expressvpn.com/good to learn more.
But, and then the other one was the tampering. I was the only one that had the tampering, that the Pacers were, went to the league about them tampering with George.
Yeah.
And, I remember the Lakers station guys had me on, and they said, well, you had a personal thing with Magic, and this is why. Wait a minute. I didn't go to the league about the tampering.
Right.
Wait a minute. Pacers went to the league about the tampering. I'm reporting it. Now you're saying it was a personal thing with Magic. Are you out of your minds? I mean, these people, they distort things so much. It cost them $500,000.
Yep.
That could have cost them a draft pick. Should have cost them a draft pick.
What
they didn't get George.
Peter, what are you up to now? Just kind of, I know Bob's kind of partially retired, still writes, still does a podcast, wants to, stay in it, but obviously have a different life where you're not tied to your phone and having to go to games every night. How are you? How have you adapted to retirement and still, probably trying to stay involved in some capacity, but not obviously like it was?
No, I'm not trying to stay involved at all. I don't go to games.
Yeah.
I live 100 miles outside of New York City, and would not go to a Knick game or a Net game. No interest at all. I can watch the games on TV and then get pissed off about how the game is being played and how the game isn't being slowed down enough with all the going to the monitor crap.
Yeah.
The league came up with a new one. The coaching challenge.
So stupid. So bad.
What is next?
Yeah.
What is next? They wonder why the TV ratings are down.
Yeah.
This is why they're down.
Yep.
You've got players not wanting to play. I take back. Players probably do want to play. Coaches deciding that players need rest. So big-time players sit down. The only time they're in a city, they don't. They should be. If they're going to sit down, sit them down at home. But and the NBA wonders why TV
ratings. Yeah.
The networks must be incensed about what's going on. It's like so that kind of stuff is crazy. But I don't really. I watch it. I still love basketball, but it's getting very difficult to watch. Which feed do you watch? Do you watch? There's so many announcers I just cannot listen to nationally or locally. No need to name it.
Who do you like, Peter? Who do you like? I love Barkley. I love Chuck because Chuck's Chuck, and I just think he'll say anything. Number one, and he's like. Again, I'll give you a story. I'll give you a story of just kind of the first time I ever met him.
I hate him. Right?
Okay, and that's fine. That's fine. You can be that way. I'm just going to give you a personal story. And
you didn't have to work with him.
I get it. So I'm at the Final Four 7-8 years ago. Somebody from ESPN, I was with ESPN at the time, calls me and says, you got to come to this kind of party. Bunch of people here. Tony Romo, Barkley, all these people are here. So I come over with a couple other guys, and I walk in. I had never met him before, but full disclosure, I actually grew up in Boston as the biggest Andrew Toney fan of all time. Like, loved him. Boston Strangler, big Sixers fan at the time. More Andrew Toney than anything else, just going against my father, who was a huge Celtics fan. So anyway, I walk in and never met Chuck. He comes right over to me and just says, I love what you do on TV. I love how you're you. There's no BS. And for me, again, listen, I'm 40-ish at that time. I had just gotten ESPN. I never thought in a million years I'd be on TV, as you probably didn't either when you were growing up and getting in the business. And for me, it was one of those things that was like, all right, that's pretty cool. The fact that I've made some sort of impact in college, too, to where it affected. Now, Chuck, they do the NCAA tournament. Luckily they put Clark Kellogg on there and Kenny Smith. those guys don't know college like Clark Kellogg does, and they don't know the NCAA tournament. But I like Chuck because he says it says it how it is, and there aren't many of them. There aren't many of them out there anymore, Pete.
Well, let me tell you. So flattery will get you everywhere. Okay, I get that. But second of all, he says stuff he doesn't know anything about.
Some.
So
some.
He says more stupid stuff per sentence than anybody I've ever been around. I remember when he was playing for the Rockets. I went down there. I was interviewing him for whatever, and he said something. It doesn't matter what he said. And I told him, I said, that's Chuck. I don't call him Chuck. I didn't know him well enough to call him Chuck. I said, Charles. I call him, circumference. But I said that is absurd what you're saying. And I explained to him, why it was absurd. And after the game, or I think that was at a practice. And then after a game, the topic came up again, and he spouted verbatim what I had told him as his thoughts. Yeah. So he had turned it around.
Yeah.
He listened to reason for once in his life because it was just
and he flipped it.
Talking.
Yeah, and he flipped it.
And it's stupid.
All right, so who do you like? Who on TV do you?
I love Clark Kellogg.
Yeah, Clark's awesome. Clark's awesome.
I love Lenny Elmore when he was on War, and who do I like?
Who do you look to now that covers the NBA? Is there anybody out there right now that you look to and you want to hear what they have to say?
Offhand, nope. All right. If you sat in my living room listening to me, I shaking my head. I said, I can't believe of what they're saying. I cannot believe it. Well, I know. There are few people I could tolerate. I listened to Marcus Johnson last night. I've listened to him before. He's pretty good.
Yeah.
Marcus is pretty good. I think he tries to be honest. But so many of these guys are just so dishonest, or again, ignorant about what's going on. I was like, God, I listened to some guy last night talking about. Kid with Dallas, Jalen, what's his name?
Brunson.
Guard.
Brunson.
Talking about Jalen Brunson. He had a really good game last night. So the play-by-play guy was saying, he has never done it on this level. He had a good game, but never done on this level. The guy is so good, it's ridiculous. So it might have been his best scoring game in a while. I love watching him play.
Because he knows how to play.
How could he? Yeah, how could he go second round? When he was drafted second round, I called around. I said,
"You know why? Because he didn't pass the look test. He didn't jump high enough. He's not athletic enough.
Okay, so
that's why.
All the analytics they want to talk about. I asked people. I said, wait a minute, he won 2 titles.
Yep.
He's under control.
Yep.
Smart as a motherfucker.
Just cares about winning too. You forgot about the biggest one.
Nobody I called. But Jeff, nobody I called.
Yeah.
And I called some pretty good guys, knowledgeable guys about, why was he drafted second round? He won 2 titles. Why? He can play, he can shoot, he's under control. Not one of them could tell me he was going to be a good pro. Not one. All the analytics in the world. What are you watching? What are you guys seeing? I didn't get it. The second round. I mean, he's terrific. He's a role player. How would the Knicks like to have him as a point guard? Starting point guard.
No doubt. He's better than anybody they have because you know what? You know what you're getting every single game from Jalen Brunson. Every single game.
He made a great play last night. Goes to timeout. Goes back to the huddle. Doesn't get excited.
Nope.
Doesn't get. Oh man, I love his game. Love the way he plays. I'm talking about all the people on TV. They don't even stay up on what's going on around the league. I'm watching from a distance, and I know way more about the league than these guys do. And I'm not talking to anybody. But So it's pathetic. And then so many of those such homers, just like like so many writers are homers, give excuses for teams, for players, whatever.
You know what there is now? Here's, and I'll leave you with this. You know what there is now that I don't know if there was when you were really doing this? There's way more conflict of interest now than there ever were, in my opinion.
Well, Jeff, who had more conflicts of interest than me? I mean, my line, which, again, it's stupid Mike Wise tried to quote me on my line. You can't even get that right. But my line over the years has been you got to have at least 2 conflicts of interest to be successful.
What do you mean by that?
Well, in other words, you've got to have stuff going on all around you to be able to feed off stuff. But again, I walked that line every night when I went out with players or whatever. I walked that line and tiptoed on it and fell off of it, but I was successful, and my editors trusted me to come across with the goods, and I did most of the time. Some things I held back, like I told you, the Dean Images, but I don't.
Not many regrets. It sounds like not many regrets.
No regrets except a few.
Well, listen, I really appreciate you pinch hitting for Bob. We're going to do this again, the 3 of us, at some point. Maybe we'll take a drive to New York and do it in person because I think Bob will enjoy it. Right now, he's.
I'd love to do it with Bob. There's nobody in the business I respected more, and obviously I recommended him for the head columnist job. And by the way, let me leave you on that. I love Shaughnessy too. And I recommended him to the Post for the Yankee job, and he turned that into
more money, more.
I'm still in touch with Shaughnessy. I think he's like maybe my favorite writer to read. And he is my favorite.
Because he'll say it the way it is. Again, doesn't worry about the backlash.
Let me give you a quick. I'm going to leave you on this.
Yeah.
So I'm traveling around the country, West Coast trip with the '86 Celtics, the best 2 weeks of my career. Okay, and traveling commercial, and every stop when there's an off night after a game, I'm going out to eat with Bird, Walton, Carlisle, and Seasting.
Oh my God. That had to be a riot.
Unbelievable to this day, So we're in the airport toward the end of the trip, or maybe in the middle of the trip, and Shaughnessy gets the word that he's going to be covering the Yankees when he comes off the trip. And Robert Parrish is standing there, and Robert Parrish takes out a bankroll, thick bankroll.
Okay.
And he said, Dan, I'll pay you ticket back to Boston right now if you leave. Don't wait.
That's pretty good.
I never forgot that. That was like one of the funniest things.
That's tremendous. Tremendous.
Yeah, because relationships were so different than, these private planes and protection from the media by the teams has cost everybody.
Yeah, it's not the same.
A lot of stories,
right?
It's cost people a lot of stories.
Well, again, like I said earlier, it's now too many reporters just get what is fed to them, and instead of digging. And listen, I'm at fault for it too, no doubt. I should dig more than I probably have lately. I don't think you get enough investigative pieces. But listen, I'm going to let you go. I really appreciate you jumping on, like I said, while Bob's.
Let me end it on this instead.
Go ahead.
What I would love to do, I would love to bring it back to the old days. If somebody would hire me to go on the road with a different team for a week different teams. Go on the road with them for a week.
Yep.
And see what I come up with. I guarantee you, I'll come up with stuff.
It'd be fun.
They don't.
Right.
Some of it will be, the stories. I
Yep.
come up with stories.
Yeah, the scene stuff, the back. Cause,
I would love to do that.
Somebody needs to bankroll you, right? Just bankroll you for a week.
Yeah, but a different team each week, or do a team a week,
Yep.
skip a week, go on another team.
That'd be tremendous. All right, listen.
All right.
Thanks for jumping on. Really, really appreciate your time and your storytelling and your candor. And we will do this again. Trust me. And I'm just going to be a fly on the wall with you and Bob next time we do this.
All right, great.
Thanks a lot, Peter.
Bye.
You got it.